Throne of Eldraine's already at 110 a box, and it keeps on climbing. Honestly, I actually already filmed this video like a week and a half ago at 105, and a lot of the things I said in there maybe didn't really make sense, so I went ahead and refilmed the whole video by the time I actually went to edit and post it, because the price keeps going up. But this set's still in standard and supposedly still in print. What's with the climb? Steven with Magic Band of Money, thanks for tuning in. Throne of Eldraine is still in standard and supposedly isn't supposed to rotate out for another 6-7 months. So why is it already at 110 a box? And they keep going up. Again, I already filmed this at 105 a box a week ago, and those are all gone. They disappeared. Supposedly, there's still a restock coming, and that's possible, right? So we don't really know for sure. Wizards keeps all this stuff really hush-hush, but typically, the product life cycle, when it's for standard prints, not talking about, master sets or anything, or Commander Legends or whatever, but for standard boxes, they do the initial print run, right? They print a whole bunch of them, ready for release, and they release the product into the market. And over time, over the product's life cycle, while it's in standard for 15 to 24 months, they continue to reprint it, right? So they'll be like, all right, after 6 months, supplies are running a little bit low. We want to make sure we have plenty in the warehouse, plenty for suppliers, and they go and print another, a few 100,000 boxes or whatever the print runs are. No one knows the numbers, but right, they go and print more of them. And they do this usually a couple times throughout the life cycle. Now, sometimes they cut these products short, right? Like Dominaria, one of the most successful modern sets of all time, and a set everyone loved, they didn't print it as much as everyone thought. Everyone thought, okay, well, yeah, supply's low, my distributor's running low, I'll just wait a little bit, wait another month until the restock supposedly should come, and it never came. It just didn't happen. And that may be the case with Throne. Now, it's already been printed, and when I say print runs, I don't mean like they're reprinting as in like, a card gets reprint, right? We're just saying they actually just go to their print shop and they go to Card Monday and they say, hey, we need this to be printed again. Here's another order for the exact same product, just print it again so we can continue through the supply chain, right? That way they don't have to do all that up front, pay all that money up front, store all that inventory. They don't want to have to worry about that. So they print it multiple times throughout the life cycle. Well, with Throne of Eldraine, we kind of expect there to be another reprint over the last few months, but it doesn't really look like that's happening, right? It doesn't look like there's this huge influx of supply going to all the distributors across the nation. So Throne of Eldraine might be out of print, and if that's the case, I don't see these prices going down. I mean, maybe $5 if you're lucky, right? If all of a sudden someone decides to offload, many pallets of this and they undercut the market by a little bit. But there's no reason to do that unless they're trying to raise capital in a quick emergency here, because if this thing's out of print. Now, if there is another restock coming, relax. Don't panic buy, right? You can easily wait, and it might go down a few dollars. But just in case it doesn't, you got to think, what's the long-term future of this product? And am I willing to risk buying in at a higher price point to maybe buying in a lower price point? And does it really matter, right? So if there's a restock coming, which the more time goes on, the more it's looking like maybe not. I mean, Wizards has had so many supply issues. The world has had so many supply chain issues, right? You could easily see them just saying, hey, we got so many other products to print. We're not going to worry about this. We're just going to go and move on. That could be the case. And if that's the case, if there's no reprint coming, prices are just going to go up. Now, if there is a reprint coming, prices will likely go down a little bit, right? As people can say, hey, I can get these at normal pricing again, sell them for $90, $95, $100, whatever it is. But long term, if you want to buy now, you're kind of hedging your risk, right? You're saying, hey, maybe I can lower my cost basis, but I'm just going to lock in prices now at 110 because I want to build my position in it for what this goes long term. And if you believe this box is a $250, $300 box, does the $5, $10 really matter at your cost basis? Not really, right? But if you hold off 6 more months and no new supply comes, or another 3 months, and all of a sudden you're in at 120, 125, I mean, who knows, right? Look at War of the Spark. I mean, War of the Spark is out of print, but all of a sudden that bad boy's shooting up, right? We're seeing him at 150. So if Throne of Eldraine starts to see something similar, you'd say, oh, I'm kicking myself. I wish I would have locked in prices at 110. So if you're worried about that, you can hedge your risk of prices going up and lock it in at your position, your price point now. And yes, maybe you spend an extra $10 per box, $5, $10, but how much is that going to matter if this is a $500 box 10 years from now, right? It's not really going to make that big of a difference either way, to be honest, right? Whether you pay 110, 100, 120, none of that really makes a huge effect on your returns, right? On the actual math, the percent, when you're looking 5-10 years down the road, right? And assuming this box goes to 500. Who knows if it will, right? But I think there's some bullish indicators that this is going to be a good product. So let's dive into those. What makes Throne of Eldraine such a good product? First of all, the showcase frames, right? We got to go back, take ourselves back 15 months whenever this product came out, almost 18 months ago now, I guess, and say, hey, this was the first time we got these showcase frames, and this was awesome. Everyone was stoked about this. This was so cool and so novel. Now every set has showcase frames, right? But at the time, this is the first time, and there's always a premium on the novelty and the first edition of something like this. Right? Everyone will say Throne was the OG, right? It was the first showcase frame, the first collector's box, all that. I'm a big fan, and that's a bullish indicator that it has this cool variant that whether you love them or hate them or you think, oh, it would have been more special if they just did it once. Yes, of course it would have been. They were very successful. They were widely accepted among the community and among the market saying, hey, we love these showcase frames. We think they're gorgeous. I mean, personally, when I first saw Lovestruck Beast, from a flavor standpoint, I was like, this card is awesome. It's Beauty and the Beast. It's got this cool adventure aspect, which is a new mechanic. We're not sure. It's 2 cards in 1. And in this case, they're both creatures. Oh, it's kind of a downside. Oh, it can block still if it doesn't have the 1/1, but it can only attack. It's a restriction. Very interesting card, right? It has some interesting play aspect to it, right? To say, hey, I can't deal with a 5/5, but I can deal with a 1/1, which kind of deals with a 5/5, right? It's got a lot of fun play patterns to it. Lovestruck Beast was a beautiful card. I mean, it reminded me of my childhood, watching Beauty and the Beast as a kid, and then suddenly, oh, there's a showcase frame? Are you kidding me? And it's even more beautiful, and it's got this crazy variant art. Awesome. And I was all in. I was like, well, now I have to get the showcase frames. You know what I mean? I mean, they were beautiful. Overall, the showcase frames were a big hit. And then the adventure mechanic, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this again. I think this was really, really, really well done. And it was definitely a risky mechanic, right? When you're printing 2-for-1s, it's real easy to go overboard and say, hey, this is just straight up a Doomblade and a good threat all in one, right? Well, not necessarily. Maybe it's a little bit overcast. Like paying 2 mana for a shock effect, terrible, right? No one's gonna do that. But there's a little bit of upside to say, hey, damage can't be prevented this turn, right? So now Stomp becomes more interesting. But then when you attach that to a good 3 mana threat, and you just go, hey, I have a turn 2 play and a turn 3 play, right? So as long you look at an opening hand, and as long as you have 2 lands and a Bonecrusher Giant, you are potentially, 3 lands especially, right? But even with just 2 lands, you're like, this is probably a keepable hand because I have early play. I have early interaction, right? That could have easily been a mistake. We could have all said Adventures were the worst thing they ever did with the design. It's Phyrexian mana. It's just hot garbage. But it wasn't. They nailed it because they kind of made the just a little bit overpriced, right? But it was worth it when you combine the 2 different cards in one. Really cool design, really well done, and it makes these cards playable in so many different formats, and that's always a good indicator to me, right? We all know that Petty Theft and Brazen Borrower is the new Vendilion Clique in a lot of ways, right? There was a big comparison there with the 3/1 Flying Flash. It's a great card, great design, and it's definitely playable. We see it played in Modern, we see it played in Legacy, Pioneer. I mean, the fact that this set has cards that can be played in Eternal formats, that's always really important to me when estimating and hoping and trying to do the impossible task of predicting the future, right? We can't do that. But in looking at indicators as to what the future might hold for a set like this, the cards being playable in multiple formats is always, in Eternal non-rotating formats, always really important. Even with the banned cards, because we all know Oko freaking sucked. There's no doubt about that. No one likes Oko, and it's finally gone from everything, even Legacy. Oko's gone. But there were some other problematic cards, right? Veil of Summer. Oh, just a little uncommon. Sure, it'll sell for $2, $3, $4, $5 even, whatever at release. But it's an uncommon, right? So whatever. Okay, turns out that card's horrible to play against. Both of us spending 1 mana and me being down a card and you being up a card, it not be down. It's just awful, right? It's a horrible experience. So that card got banned. It's only an uncommon, not a big deal. But having a mythic banned, yeah, that's a strike against the set, no doubt. I mean, it can still be played. It's still a novel piece of history. Cause it's like, oh my gosh, look at this ridiculous card. Can you believe this was ever printed, right? So it's not the worst case in the world because it's so extreme, it's so novel, but overall, it's still net negative, I would say, to have that card that's banned in every format in the set. Some positives, net negative overall for the long-term future of this product. Once upon a time, free spells are never a good idea, right? We all knew you, Gataxian Probe. We all see you, just like you see us. But this one was interesting. Like, everyone knew this card was going to be good, but no one knew it was going to be that good because it's like, hey, you only, what's the likelihood of you having it in your opening hand? Because you have 4 copies, then how bad is it to actually pay mana? Like, paying 2 mana to be able to go and find a land or creature, not the greatest. But the fact that this was instant speed, okay, that makes it better. And then the fact that you can respond to a Thoughtseize, like you keep a 1 or 2 lander and someone Thoughtseizes you and you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to play this now for free for no mana, make sure I fix my hand, and then let you Thoughtseize me so I'm not vulnerable to the mana screw plan, right, or whatever. It just was too much. It turned to be too powerful. We all know this, and it's been banned, and for good reason, right? But focusing on other cards that are still in the format, obviously I think all the adventure cards, yes, some of them are constructed playable in Eternal formats. Some of them are still just great, fun cards. They're beautiful, they're different, they're fun. The 2-for-1 makes these fun commander and kitchen table cards. That's always good. They're great for draft, right? Was this a good draft environment? Yes, great for drafting. So if you want to do, 10 years from now, you want to do a vintage draft, right? And say, hey, we're going to draft some Eldraine. It's a fun draft environment. That's always good. But really importantly, I always like to look at the rare land cycle, and the castles are great, right? We got the 5 castles. They're all awesome. They're all playable again in some Eternal formats. That's always a good thing, a good sign. Maybe not all of them are playable in every Eternal format, but the fact that they see Eternal play is obviously great. Castle Garambrig, letting you play Primeval Titan a turn early. I hate it. It's stupid, but as far as the playing against that, not fun. I'm very biased against mana ramp decks. We all know this, but regardless, it is a powerful card. Castle Lock Twain, great card, being able to draw cards. The fact that these come into play untapped most of the time, so that gives them some playability. They're not free. You can't just throw them into a 5-color deck, but in a 1 or 2-color deck, it really becomes unlikely that they'll enter the battlefield untapped or tapped. It's quite likely they'll enter the battlefield untapped, so that's great for these cards. They're really fun, great design. The castles, the rare land cycle, good. Fabled Passage, obviously an amazing card, kind of a fixed fetch land, right? Obviously it can't fetch for duels, it only fetches for basics, but that's not the only problem with fetch lands, as we know, with how it fills with your graveyard and messes with delve and other mechanics. But the fact that it comes into play tapped until turn 4, then it's untapped, that's interesting. I think it's a great card overall. Yes, it was reprinted less than a year later. Yes, that took everyone by surprise and plummeted the value. But overall, long term, it's a great card. It's still the first edition. It still is the OG, always has a premium. Got that, whatever little sword, pixie wing, the logo for Throne of Eldraine on it. So that's always good with the set symbol, right? The OG says a version of the card. Really positive. Overall, I think Throne of Eldraine, I'm bullish on it. And the market's showing that right now by saying, hey, even though this product isn't even out of standard yet, and even though it could possibly get a reprint, but with that looking less and less likely, people are already moving into it, and money's already going into Throne, and the prices are already going up. That shows that the market is starting to receive this product and seeing some long-term indicators on this. We'll see what happens. No one can predict the future. Maybe this box in 5 years is only at $120 and it didn't do anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years it's closer to $200, and at 10 years it's a $500 box. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens. But nothing can tell the future. That's what makes life exciting. If you think it's worth buying, go ahead and lock in your prices now. If you think there's going to be a reprint, you could wait. But overall, we'll see where this bad boy takes us. It's going to be a fun ride. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.